everything that would unfold later.
In 2007, with Reed's help, Bigelow secured $22 million from the Department of Defense to fund the Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, an initiative that would investigate reports of anomalous aerial vehicles.
They managed to create this program in the Pentagon, which was a classified program, sort of black coding, as they say. And so they were able to get the funds. The Pentagon was able to get up and running with it, and I think that was a game changer.
Pentagon officials select former U.S. Army counterintelligence special agent Luis Elizondo to run the secret ATIP program.
Elizondo was put in charge of that. He was overseeing this little group of people in different parts of the Pentagon. They would exchange information, do what they could, try to keep a very low profile. Some people in the Pentagon knew what they were doing, but others did not.
Ran ATIP for those approximately 7 years with funding from Senator Harry Reid in Nevada. And none of us knew anything about it.
As Elizondo delved into the government's secret files, he became convinced that UFOs could pose a major national security threat. To his growing frustration, he struggled to get anyone to listen to him.
Lou figured out that forces within the Pentagon weren't taking this seriously and were perhaps dismissing and covering up and suppressing UFO information for various reasons. And Lou couldn't stand the fact that within the halls of the Pentagon, it wasn't being taken seriously.
In October 2017, Luis Elizondo resigned from ATIP after Pentagon officials refused to present his findings to Defense Secretary James Mattis.
I've seen too much. I've talked to too many people. I have too many reports. I know it's real. I can't in good conscience just keep my head buried in the sand. I had to leave the very job that I love to get my point across.
Just as Elizondo was leaving his position at the Pentagon, Tom DeLonge, co-founder of the rock band Blink-182, was forming a group called To the Stars Academy to collect and study information on unidentified aerial phenomena.
Tom DeLonge gathered around him an extraordinary team of insiders with backgrounds in the government, intelligence community, the aerospace community, particularly cutting-edge technologies.
Elizondo almost immediately went to work for Tom DeLonge in his new company, To the Stars, a company that was dedicated to working to try to uncover the answers about the UFO phenomenon, which just seemed like a perfect stroke of luck.
With the addition of Elizondo, To the Stars Academy now had unprecedented access to government intel on unidentified aerial phenomena. And unbeknownst to Elizondo's former bosses in the military, he hadn't left government service empty-handed. He brought with him extraordinary video evidence of UFOs.
My God!
Washington, D.C., October 2017. After Luis Elizondo resigns from his position with ATIP and leaves the Pentagon, he shares 3 declassified videos recorded by Navy pilots with his new colleagues at To the Stars Academy. The first object, known as Tic Tac, was caught on radar in 2004 off the USS Nimitz at an altitude of 80,000 feet. As Navy F-18s approached the object, it descended to within 1 foot of the water in seconds.
We don't have this capability of dropping 80,000 feet within a matter of seconds, hitting a velocity of Mach 20. So we now know that there's some kind of propulsion system that exceeds the capability of our own rocket.
Naval Aviator Lieutenant Chad Underwood was ordered to pursue the object in an F-18 equipped with a sophisticated clear video system.
The object looked featureless, and that's why I called it the Tic Tac. It had no wings, no method of propulsion, and on your forward-looking infrared pod, all it is tracking. So you would typically see engine exhaust coming out of one of the ends of the aircraft. Not seeing anything. The object was changing altitude, airspeed, things that my FLIR and my radar were having difficulty tracking. And then at the end of the encounter is when you see it dart off to my left on the FLIR pod. And that's when I was like, whoa, what just happened?
The other two videos Elizondo brought to his colleagues at To the Stars Academy are equally groundbreaking. Known as Gimbal and Go Fast, both videos were taken by Navy jets from the USS Theodore Roosevelt near the Florida coast in 2015. All three videos show objects moving in ways that defy the known laws of physics.
These objects can zigzag effortlessly, defying the known laws of aerodynamics. These objects can effortlessly accelerate up to 20 times the speed of sound. They have no visible means of propulsion. So what could it be? Well, the short answer is we don't know.
The phenomena have unusual flight characteristics, unusual vectors, speed, being able to hover and move. The fact that the Chinese or Russians or anyone else would have that kind of capability and we wouldn't know about it is pretty slim.
As head of ATIP, Elizondo was able to have the videos declassified, but they had never been made public. His involvement in To the Stars Academy offered a new opportunity to share the remarkable information collected at the Pentagon.
To the Stars, their goal was that they were going to crack it all open. And they were going to open up the truth that the government knows about these unidentified aerial phenomena that have the technology that does not exist in terms of human production.
To the Stars Academy, to their credit, brought Lou Elizondo together with Chris Mellon, Department of Defense official, Senate Intelligence insider, and then they go to the New York Times with this blockbuster story about the U.S. government's interest in investigating UFOs.
Chris Mellon arranged a meeting with Leslie Kean, a best-selling author who had spent years trying to draw mainstream media attention to UFOs. Mellon and Elizondo revealed to Kean the existence of the secret ATIP program and promised her access to the videos if she could place the story with the New York Times.
Leslie Kean is very well connected politically. Her uncle Thomas Kean was the former governor of New Jersey and headed up the 9/11 Commission. This gives you an idea of just how plugged in to the political network Leslie is. So when Leslie was contacted by Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon, she then teamed up with Ralph Blumenthal, veteran New York Times reporter, and Helene Cooper, again from the Times.
Ralph Blumenthal came to know Leslie Kean while working on his book, The Believer, a biography about alien abductions researcher Dr. John Mack. When Blumenthal heard about the government's ATIP program, he was eager to help break the story.
Well, it was clearly a great story for the New York Times. A secret Pentagon unit investigating UFOs after the government was supposed to be out of the UFO business, but of course never really was.
Blumenthal pitched the story directly to the New York Times managing editor, Dean Bouquet. And on December 16, 2017, Leslie Kean, Ralph Blumenthal, and Helene Cooper's groundbreaking report about the Pentagon's mysterious UFO program made the front page of the New York Times online edition.
We had it nailed down, chapter and verse, the people involved in it, everything on the record, the documents. So this hit all the benchmarks. We had the Navy videos, which we were able to put on the Times website, and they garnered more views than almost anything in Times history.
This was a real turning point in the United States because the New York Times has always said that they're the guardians of the truth. Suddenly, the New York Times is actually reporting on UFOs. This really shows that
UFOs and the study of UFOs and investigation has entered the mainstream. All of a sudden, since 2017, these stories have become front-page news on worldwide newspapers. And it clearly shows that there was a type of a paradigm shift that's happened over the past 25 years. And for someone like me, it's incredible.
Astonished by the ATIP revelations and leaked videos, Congress demanded briefings, forcing the intelligence communities to respond.
Suddenly, UFO briefings become the hottest ticket on Capitol Hill. Briefings for the Armed Services Committee, the Intelligence Committee, everybody wants in. Congress takes it serious. The media give them political coverage by saying this is a legitimate story. So you have people like Marco Rubio, Senator Warner, who can tell reporters, yeah, we're looking into this. This is a legitimate mystery.
You have things flying over military installations, over military exercises, and other places, and we don't know what it is.
If there are objects flying over military installations, that could pose a security threat.
I think we're going to have more hearings, and I think that we can have these conversations publicly in a way that doesn't warrant mockery or scorn or ridicule. I think it's critically important.
After 70 years of taboo, going back to the 1947 incident at Roswell, New Mexico, the study of UFOs had finally gained mainstream acceptance. But is the U.S. military ready to share all it knows? Or are there still forces within the Pentagon that will go to any length to protect its secrets? Washington, D.C., June 2019. In the wake of the New York Times revelations about ATIP and the explosive Navy videos, the House and Senate Armed Services Committees began interviewing Navy pilots who claimed to have witnessed UAPs while on training missions.
It started with closed-door briefings of senior staff members. These pilots, Alex Dietrich, and people like that, Chad Underwood, Ryan Graves, start being led up to Capitol Hill. They tell their stories.
This thing would go instantaneous from one way to another. It just rapidly accelerates beyond anything I've ever seen.
They are incredibly believable. They have gravitas. They're not UFO.
We were able to then visually pick up what we describe as a tic-tac that was moving very fast.
They're telling stories of encounters with strange craft that are way beyond any technology we have.
We do workups along the eastern seaboard, and these objects kind of came with us. The fact that he would just get himself on his wingtip with no turn isn't how aircraft work.
The senior staff members are impressed. They tell the elected members of Congress it changed everything. I never thought I would see it in my lifetime, and here it is, unfolding right before our eyes. Still unfolding.
The Pentagon has had to respond. It might just be difficult for the Pentagon to completely do a blanket denial the way they used to.
In August 2020, in a rare instance of transparency, the U.S. Department of Defense announces that the work Luis Elizondo oversaw with ATIP, analyzing and cataloging UAPs, is still being carried on under a new program called the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. That same summer, Senator Marco Rubio's Intelligence Committee drafts legislation giving the Pentagon 180 days to publicly report what government agencies know about UAPs.
The Senate Intelligence Committee puts in a bill for 2021. We want to report on UAP. And so the whole momentum of this is this theme of we need to do something. We need to get serious about it.
The legislation is passed and signed by the president, and the 180-day countdown begins. But curiously, even as this was happening, top Pentagon officials were attacking Luis Elizondo's credibility and claiming that he had nothing to do with ATIP.
The Pentagon launched a smear campaign against Elizondo, calling him crazy. On May 3rd, 2021, Lou Elizondo filed a 64-page complaint with the Inspector General. These are like the top cops in the Department of Justice.
There is still pockets of resistance in the Pentagon that is trying to muzzle, if you will, stifle this conversation. That must be corrected. And yes, I know that if they also corrupted the record about me, but that's less important than fixing the record about this overall conversation.
So now you have a movement after all these years to begin to crack that secrecy even by a little bit. You're clearly going to have a very powerful faction of individuals who are going to do everything possible to thwart that effort. And if that means smearing good people with good reputations, well, so be it. This is war.
Researchers suggest efforts to deny whistleblower testimony about the existence of UFOs have persisted since World War II, citing government reactions to numerous bombshell revelations.
Whistleblowers, in many ways, are the most courageous heroes of the 20th to the 21st century because they were decent human beings who get hired to do science. And then what they find themselves in are straitjackets. Straitjackets of political policies, of Defense Department policies, each of the different intel agencies and military groups. They want to control whatever is being let out. It's been going on since World War II to today.
In 1958, after conducting research on UFOs with the help of his contacts at the Pentagon, retired Marine Corps pilot Major Donald Kehoe went on a live television program called The Armstrong Circle Theater to report his conclusion that extraterrestrials were, in fact, visiting Earth. But mysteriously, just as he was about to make this point, the sound cut out.
If the hearings are held, open hearings, live field will conclude beyond.
In 1989, when physicist Bob Lazar claimed that he was hired to reverse engineer an alien spacecraft at a top-secret military base called Area 51, government officials denied that the base even existed at all. A falsehood that would be exposed 14 years later.
You can hear Bob Lazar's story, and it sounds so outlandish until you have people within the Pentagon saying we do have recovered materials and stuff, and then you have to look back at Bob Lazar's story, and you see he's telling you the truth.
In 1997, retired U.S. Army Colonel Philip J. Corso published The Day After Roswell, in which he confirms that an extraterrestrial craft did indeed crash in the New Mexico desert. It was met with similar denials from the Pentagon.
Colonel Corso's entire book is about the physical evidence where it went, the fact that there were policies of denial, all of it was off limits.
When the Pentagon tries to discredit Elizondo in 2020, many fear it indicates business as usual, and that the government UAP report will once again prove to be an effort to debunk rather than disclose. But to the surprise of many, the Inspector General immediately agrees to investigate Elizondo's complaint. Ancient astronaut theorists are hopeful this could lead to an official re-examination of the high-profile UFO incidents that have been dismissed before.
It's possible the Inspector General could get in and find evidence about what happened at Roswell, what happened with Major Kehoe, what happened with Bob Lazar. All of these questions under oath would be asked Pentagon officials, and the public will get to know about it as well.
While the Inspector General's investigation was just getting started, the release of the government's UAP report was only a month away. And as the anticipation was growing, more explosive new evidence came to light.
Pentagon UFO task force, one of which showed a pyramid-shaped object floating above the USS Russell off the west coast. And it wasn't just one pyramid, there were apparently swarms of these things.
They were triangular by angle of observation, but they were pyramid in shape in reality.
Other leaked videos were recorded aboard the USS Omaha, part of the same strike group as the USS Russell. These included not only a smartphone recording, but also thermal imaging footage, the video of the objects caught on radar.
138 knots.
You've got what's known as FLIR, that is forward-looking infrared or thermal signatures. You have radar data as well, and there was actually video that was shot by Navy personnel on the deck looking up at these objects. So you have three different types of things.
One video appeared to show a single round object flying above the water, then hovering before making a controlled descent into the ocean.
You can actually hear in the CIC, which is the Combat Information Center, the shock and the awe.
Whoa, it's getting close.
As people saw this vehicle going into the water.
Oh, splash.
These objects can apparently fly through the atmosphere at velocities that exceed the known velocities of our projectiles. And they can go underwater, exceeding the pressure that would normally rupture the hull of a projectile. In other words, these objects have a capability exceeding that of ours because they can go to outer space, to the atmosphere, and even the ocean.
Skeptics rushed to claim the videos were refracted light, or errant weather balloons, or perhaps even fakes. But the debunkers were dumbed below when the Pentagon quickly confirmed that the videos were authentic.
In UFO world, everything's a conspiracy. So when we release these images, we're being fed disinformation by the government. That's the assumption. These are phonies. The same kind of accusations that were leveled at the images released by Lou Elizondo, New York Times, back in 2017. Same kind of attacks from people who just don't want it to be true. They don't want there to be genuine unknowns. So we released them, got them verified, and damned if the Pentagon didn't come out and say, yep, they're real, they're legit.
One of the most fascinating aspects of all this was how quick the Department of Defense was to confirm the authenticity of this material. In the normal course of business, the policy is to either debunk or refuse to comment at all. Makes one wonder, is this material coming out with the tacit approval of someone in government, or at least a faction within government, the military, the intelligence community?
The reaction was huge when it came to these. Mainstream media picked up on it almost immediately, and it became a sensation all leading up to the countdown to this report.
My personal intent was to stoke the fire, was to provide new data and evidence, corroborative data and evidence that shows that we are being engaged by a technology of unknown origin. And behind that technology is an intelligence.
Look, a little bit of pressure is not the worst thing if you want the U.S. government to come clean on a subject that it has lied about, for more than 70, almost 80 years.
With the deadline now weeks away, the speculation reached a fever pitch. Would the final report be yet another cover-up, as many in the UFO community predicted? Or might it contain shocking revelations? Washington, D.C., June 25th, 2021. The Pentagon's UAP Task Force, along with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, submits to Congress its long-awaited report entitled Preliminary Assessment Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. The simple 9-page report represents the most direct and substantive U.S. government account of UAPs ever made public. The headline is that out of 144 reported encounters, Only one UAP was identified as a large deflating balloon. The other reported UAPs remain unexplained.
I thought that report was tremendous, a tremendously important step forward. To me, it says two things. UFOs are real, and two, they're not ours. I thought it was an astonishing report, and it spoke volumes. We got 144 cases. We can't figure out 143 of them.
It's monumental. I mean, it is a watershed moment. We're giving cover and relief for folks who are in the intelligence community now, work for our government, and folks who have served, and pilots who can now talk about this thing.
It's only a preliminary assessment. Some people in the UFO community were a bit disappointed because it wasn't disclosure. But what it did say was, I think, very encouraging, important. It essentially said that whatever UFOs are, some of these sightings demonstrate advanced technology, and this, in one sense, is a form of disclosure. It's certainly taking this further than it's ever been taken before within government. It's quite an admission.
Of the 144 reports that the UAP task force reviewed, the bulk of the sightings had occurred between 2019 and 2000.